Hey, what's up guys, it's Cher and I have a lot to tell you, but we're gonna wait until the end of the video to talk about everything personal and what's going on with this channel. But today we are going to talk about my favorite book in the entire world, The Time Traveler's Wife by Aubrey Neffenegger. It's the best thing in the world. So, I started with The Time Traveler's Wife. The first time I ever experienced anything about The Time Traveler's Wife was when I was really young. I want to say I was probably 8 or 9 or 10 when I first saw the movie for The Time Traveler's Wife, and only recently did I read the book. So it's kind of cool to go from watching the movie to reading the book and getting an extra piece of the piece of forever that Henry and Clare gave me. Henry and Clare have been so special to me from a very young age, so to read the book now as an adult who is in love and who is finding their place in the world, it's so crazy to relate to and to love and to feel that type of romance all over again and on a different perspective, because love seems very far away when you're a child and you don't know what it is, you don't know what it feels like, and then to go back and to read it as an adult, I just feel the love that Claire and Henry have for each other on a whole different perspective, because I feel like now I'm since I'm in love, I get to kind of feel it with them, which also means I feel everything that Claire feels, everything that Henry feels on a totally enhanced level. I will say, if you're younger, I wouldn't suggest reading it just because it's such a thick book and it takes a lot of effort, and then there's a lot of words in French, and there's a lot going on in this novel. But it is a great novel. If you are ready to sink your teeth into it and never let it go, read the mess out of this book. Read it twice. It's amazing. And honestly, I don't think any book for me will ever compare to how much I love this one. This is my favorite book of all time. And I will say that flat out right now. I don't think anything will ever compare to The Time Traveler's Wife for me and how it makes me feel. So let's get into the plot. If you haven't seen this before, if you haven't read the book, I will let you know right now, spoilers, spoilers, spoilers. I am going to talk about this book front to back, and we're going to have a lot of fun doing it. Okay? Alright, let's get into it. Now, I'm going to read the back of the book to you guys, and then I'm going to tell you how it feels from my perspective, and then we're going to just talk about everything that goes on in this book. We're going to talk about from ex-girlfriends to ex-lovers to everything in between, even though there isn't really much of an in-between when it comes to Henry and Claire, since Claire has known Henry since she was 8 years old. The most untraditional love story. This is a celebrated tale of Henry de Tamble, a dashing, adventuresome librarian who travels through time, and Claire Absher, an artist whose life takes the natural sequence course. Henry and Claire's passionate affair endures across a sea of time and captures them in the impossibly romantic trap that tests the strength of faith and basks in the bounds of love. Oh. Oh. Now, if you don't speak book and you don't necessarily know what that means, I'm going to tell you about it right now from my perspective. So, Henry and Claire have very different reasons for loving each other. Henry met Claire for the first time when he was 28, while she met him for the first time when she was just 8 years old. He has been in her life consistently up from being 8 to being 18. And then he leaves her for 2 years, and then they meet in real life, in real present time. So basically, Claire has been loving this man all of her life, and she never stopped loving him ever, while Henry meets this girl who knows everything about him and knows about his time travel and doesn't get upset with him for it. And he just instantly is attracted to her. She's a beautiful girl, and she just is so understanding and so loving that it kind of takes him abruptly, because he was in a relationship with someone who didn't necessarily like him. And when you're in a relationship with someone for a long time and you argue and you fight all the time, you don't necessarily feel that love. So to go from someone like that to Claire, who is the most loving and understanding human that he's probably ever come across besides his own mother, well, you just kind of gotta love him for that. So basically, the whole story is just about how they met, how they fell in love, and how they got to spend their life together. We get to see Claire go from being an 8-year-old to a 12-year-old to 13 to 16 to 18 to 21, and then to the rest of her life with Henry. We get to watch her grow up, and we also get to watch Henry grow up as well, even though Henry was always a lot older than her. There's an 8-year gap in between them, but a lot of times she met him when he was around 30-something. When they met for the first time for Claire, he was around like his mid-30s. So she's kind of always known him as this wise grown man who just takes care of her and loves her, and in a few ways he was a father figure, a best friend, like a lover. Like, she loves this man from probably the moment they met. So the book kind of starts off with them meeting for the first time, and she throws a shoe at him because she's an 8-year-old and there is a naked man in her bushes. Like, what? But he comes out and they talk, and he convinces her that he's a time traveler and he's gonna get to see her disappear. And for her, that's the first time they met, but he'd seen her already as a child and in real life, because by the time he was there in his 30s, he was already married to her. So he's meeting this young Claire for the first time for her, and he's making it special even though she bust his lip open, because she is just this fiery wildcracker. Now, Claire is an artist. She's super emotional, and she's really close with her family, and even though it's not perfect, she loves them to death, and she's from Michigan. While Henry is a librarian whose mom passed away in a car accident, and his dad never really recovered from that. He was a violinist. Both of his parents were musicians, and for whatever reason he couldn't sing and he couldn't play any instruments, but they loved him anyway. And the way they meet is just so beautiful. So because Henry is a time traveler, he tends to go to places that bring him back. Like, important moments of his life he always comes back to. And because of that, not only does he meet Claire over and over through years and years of time, he also has to watch his mom die all the time. He was in the car with her, and then he time traveled out of the car, and then once he was back in his own time, the crash had already happened, and somehow he wasn't in the car, he survived, but his mom did not, and he had to view that over and over again, and it happened on Christmas Eve. And that kind of marks Henry, and it marks his father even worse. So they're both like heavy drinkers. Henry likes to party a lot. He's kind of on the wild side, and he's not really taking care of himself. And then he meets Claire, and she helps bring him back to himself and brings him back to life, and I think that's very special. So the book starts with Henry and Claire's first date. Henry is 28, Claire is 20, and they meet in the library that Henry works at in Chicago. Now, Henry left her when she was 18 for 2 years, and his last words to her was that they meet in Chicago and that she needed to live her life while he was gone. And she did those things, and she ended up moving to Chicago to go to art school, and that's how they met. He let her know ahead of time, like, kind of where to go, but he doesn't like to tell her too much about their future together because he doesn't want to ruin it for her, and he wants her to be able to experience it for the first time. But remember, she's never met Henry when he was 28 years old, so when they first meet, it's kind of awkward because she knows who this man is. It's the man of her dreams, and he has no clue who she is. So I'm going to read you guys a little bit of a snippet, just my favorite part of the first date. So this is from Henry's point of view, and it's the cutest thing ever. Henry: it's a routine day in October, sunny and crisp. I'm at work in a small, windowless, humidity-controlled room on the 4th floor of the Newberry, cataloging a collection of marbled papers that has recently been donated. The papers are beautiful, but cataloging is dull. I'm feeling bored and sorry for myself. In fact, I am feeling old, in a way a 28-year-old can, after staying up half the night, drinking the overpriced vodka, and trying without success to win himself back into the good graces of Ingrid Carmichael. We spent the entire evening fighting, and now I can't even remember what we were fighting about. My head is throbbing. I need coffee. Leaving the marbled papers in a state of controlled chaos, I walk through the room and past the desk of the reading room. I am halted by Isabel's voice saying, "Perhaps Mr. de Tamble can help you." And by which she means, "Henry, you weasel, where are you slinking off to?" And the astounding beauty of the amber-haired, tall, slim girl turns around and she looks at me as though I am her personal Jesus. My stomach lurches, and obviously she knows me, and I don't know her. Lord only knows what I have said, done, or promised this luminous creature. So I am forced to put on my best librarianese and say, "Is there something I can help you with?" The girl sort of breathes, "Henry," in this evotic way that convinces me that at some point we have a really amazing thing together. This makes it worse that I don't know anything about her, not even her name. I say, "Have we met?" And Isabel gives me that "you asshole" look. But the girl says, "I'm Claire Absher. I knew you when I was a little girl." And she invites me out to dinner. I accept, stunned, and she's glowing at me, although I am unshaven, hungover, and just not at my best. We're going to meet for dinner this very evening at Bow Tie, and Claire, having secured me for later, wafts out of the reading room. I stand in the elevator, dazed, as I realize that a massive winning lottery ticket chunk of my future has somehow found me here in the present. And I start to laugh. I cross the lobby as I run down the stairs to the street and see Claire running across Washington Square, jumping and hooping, and I am in near tears, and I don't know why. And I just think that's so special. Like, this book gives me butterflies. Like, this is what true love looks like in modern day. Now, remember, they met, what day was this? October 26, 1991. Now, we are in 2017 now, but this, if you read this book, it literally feels like this happened today, like in your present, in your future, in your past. Like, it feels like something that is, in a sense, like this entire book is out of time, which is funny because it's about time travel, and it feels so youthful no matter what you do, no matter when you read it, no matter how many times you read it. It always feels new and fresh. So as time goes on, we get to see the blossoming of a new relationship. We see Claire deal with the fact that Henry has an ex-girlfriend named Ingrid Carmichael. She actually ends up meeting Ingrid and Ingrid's girlfriend, and she becomes really good friends with Ingrid's girlfriend, which is incredibly awkward and weird. And I still don't understand how it happened, but it did. And sometimes that's what happens in real life. You end up running in the same circle as the person that you're married to, the person that you're with. And that just became a thing. I still didn't get it. And Ingrid is this rock star who wears leather and red lipstick, and she had Henry wrapped around her finger in a very odd way because they were always fighting when they were together. Now, in the end, him and Ingrid stopped speaking, and they didn't talk anymore. Henry was in a new relationship with Claire, and Claire wasn't going anywhere, so they didn't end up talking. But when you get further into the book, he's actually there when Ingrid commits suicide, because Ingrid was never really happy with her life. And that makes me sad. And she went through a lot, not only with her girlfriend, but the fact that she lost Henry, and I feel like she felt like nothing was really going well for her. When she loses, like, what was the love of her life, even though it didn't work out on her side, like, she felt like she had lost a lot. And I think him being there, like, because he traveled through time to be there, even though he didn't mean to be, and it kind of ruined him and upset him, he was still there for her, and I think that's very special. Now, so not only does Claire go into Henry's life, but it is vice versa. So Henry ends up meeting her friends Charisse and Gomez, who are in a relationship. But the sad thing is, Gomez is totally in love with Claire. And he tells Claire to stay away from Henry, and that he's a weirdo. Why does he time travel? That's so weird. You shouldn't be with him. Don't marry him. And not only is he saying that because he didn't know Henry at the time, he didn't trust Henry, but, like, he was in love with Claire, and those feelings never really went away. And Charisse knew about it, Henry knew about it as time went on, and Claire knew about it as well. And when you go even further into the book, you found out that they slept together once before. And then, again, later on. To be very real, he finds out about it later, and it was in that time period where he wasn't around. And even though they weren't together, if it makes any sense at all, because remember, like, they had been together since she was 8, and then he left her for 2 years, so can you really say anything about it when you didn't even know she existed when she was 18, and you were, let's see, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26? He was 26, he didn't even know she existed. So, can you really be mad at her for sleeping with someone else at that time? And I'm really glad he wasn't, because that's terrible. And he found out like 8 years after the fact, so that kind of adds to it as well. Claire has a big family. She has a maid and a cook and a mom and a dad and a brother and a sister, and she comes from a big family house, and she has this beautiful meadow behind her parents' house. That is where she met Henry for the first time, and that's where she always meets Henry, right there in that meadow. They're very close and intimate, and a lot of times, like when she was young, he'd help her with her schoolwork, or he'd like make her sandwiches, and like they hang out, and she's always like bringing him clothes and food because, like I said, he can't bring anything with him. And sometimes he'll stay for days, and sometimes he is only there for a few hours, or sometimes he's only there for a minute, and things change. And she was just always there for him, and he was there for her, and he grew up with her. Even though it wasn't the Henry that she knew in the present, it was the Henry of her future, the Henry that she's married to. As time goes on, she gets older, and everyone starts asking her, why don't you go on dates? Why don't you have a boyfriend? Are you a lesbian? Da 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 da. And she's not. She's in a relationship with this man from the future. And she can't really explain that to her friends, especially with an 8-year age difference. So when she is 16, he's 24 when she's 16. So obviously that's a little scary. And that's one thing I was so scared about with this book. Like, reading the book, I was like, is this gonna be weird? Like, is he gonna be like nasty with a little girl, with a young girl? Because even though that is his wife, he's a time traveler, so she's too young for you at some point in time. You understand? As time goes on, Henry comes to see her when she's about 16, and she asks him to do something for her. She went on a date with a boy who was not very nice, and when she didn't give him what he wanted, she didn't want to kiss him, she just wanted to hang out with him, and to prove to everyone at school that she wasn't a lesbian, he got really upset with her, and he burned cigarettes into her chest, and she had scars. So when Henry finally came to see her again, she asked, would you beat someone up for me? Like, could you hurt someone for me because someone hurt me and I can't do anything about it? And like, this piece of the book left a weird taste in my mouth, but at the same time, like, I felt okay with it, because a man went and took advantage of Claire, young, innocent Claire, who hadn't really done much in life besides love Henry. And then for a boy to take advantage of that, he was very angry, and they tied him up to a tree, and they took his pants off and punched him in the face, and it was honestly very hardcore. And I kind of liked it, because there isn't really much violence in this book. But it's just something that happened. And everyone always talked about Claire, like, why don't you date Claire? Why don't you do this, Claire? Why don't you do that, Claire? Because Claire is in love with a man that just isn't in school. And when she was very young, she was with her group of friends on a Ouija board. And they asked the Ouija board, who's in love with Claire? Who does Claire like? And the name was Henry. And obviously her friends didn't know who Henry was. I think she was 12 at the time. Like, obviously they didn't know who Henry was, but they were like, ooh, Claire and Henry. So they kind of knew she had a thing with this, like, invisible man, but they had never met him because she was so young at the time. So I think they all knew that eventually Henry would just appear out of thin air, and he did. So we see Henry and Claire's marriage, and when they get married, and how he interacts with her family, and it's something that they had both always wanted, something that they both knew was going to happen. And they had this beautiful time together when they were married. And they had been married for a few years, and he was learning that Claire likes her space, and she likes to art, and Henry likes to, you know, have his alone time, and that he was the one that cooked, because Claire cannot cook and never has been able to. And they were just getting into the motion of things, and they were married for a few years, and they decided that they wanted to have children. And this is where things get kind of intense. Claire had 17 miscarriages over the course of trying to have a baby. And the problem with having a baby is that they all had the same genetic disorder that Henry did. And they would all time travel out of her womb, and then try to time travel back into the womb. So not only was that killing the baby because they weren't safe in her own belly, but it would kill Claire. It could possibly kill Claire because of internal bleeding. And these babies, they couldn't control their ability. They can't control the fact that they time travel like Henry couldn't. So she couldn't stay pregnant for long. And it ruined them for a few years. And they were so upset they couldn't get pregnant. And Claire just wanted to have a baby. And she wanted to have Henry's baby. She didn't want to adopt. She didn't want to do this. She didn't want to do that. She just wanted to have Henry's baby. She wanted something normal in her life. And she wanted someone who couldn't leave her. Because even though she was okay with Henry time traveling, he still had to leave her. And it wasn't his fault. He just had to go away for a little bit. And he'd come back, and sometimes he'd be gone for weeks, and sometimes he'd only be gone for a few hours, and sometimes she wouldn't even know he had left. And that was just a piece of this travesty. Now, once they started having miscarriages, they also decided it was time to find Henry's doctor. Now, Henry had a doctor in the future that he told Claire about, and she told him in the present, and it was like, you need to find Dr. Kendrick. So when they finally did find Dr. Kendrick, he obviously didn't believe them, and then he saw Henry time travel, and then he said, let's figure this out. So they start figuring it out, and they start working with mice, and they try to figure out how to time travel. They can figure out which gene in Henry is time traveling, and then they could figure out how to counteract it. So once they figured that out in the mice, they started giving Claire a certain type of medicine that could hopefully help her and the fetus and not hurt her and the fetus. And eventually she got pregnant, and she stayed pregnant, and they had a daughter named Alba. And once Alba was growing up and she was getting older, they realized that Alba could also time travel. But Alba was a prodigy because she could control where she went. So one day when Henry is traveling into the future, he meets Alba for the first time when she's about 10. But that's also when he finds out that Henry dies when she's 5. Not only is this a beautiful story because you get to see, not only because of their love story, you get to see themselves separately. You get to hear about Claire's art. You get to see about why Henry loves the library and the things that he goes through, and how sometimes he can get beat up or hurt or thrown into the back of police cars because he's time traveling and he's running around naked and breaking into places to find clothes and to find shoes and to find shelter and to find food. So we get to see a lot about these two people separately and them together. So not only do you get to see them falling in love, but you get to see who they are, and you fall in love with these characters separately and together, and you see why they're so perfect together and why things work so well with the two of them. And it's the most peaceful feeling. And then you find out that Henry's going to die when Alba turns 5. Now, he doesn't know anything else. He doesn't know how, he doesn't know why. He just finds out he's going to die, and they figure it has something to do with time traveling. So he tries to keep the secret from Claire, he tries to keep the secret from Alba, but Alba travels from the future into the past to meet young Alba and lets her know. So they're like, don't tell Mama, keep it a secret, and that kind of causes a shift within the two of them, because he doesn't want to tell her anything, but she needs to know, because not only is this about Henry, but it is about Alba, and it is about Claire, and it's about their friends and their family, and they have so many friends and family that care about them. And he doesn't know when it's going to be when she turns 5 until time kind of moves on. So we get to see him not only interact with their child, but we get to see what he goes through as he continues to time travel. And when he's time traveling, he ends up being somewhere in the winter, totally stuck, and he has no clothes, and he gets frostbitten. So when he finally comes back to the present, they take him to the hospital, and he needs both of his feet amputated. Which means now, if he time travels, that he will be stuck because he can't take a wheelchair with him when he time travels. He can't move. Like, he doesn't have any feet to run on. If he needs to run away from the police or someone that he's stealing from, he will just be stuck. He won't be able to do anything. He won't be able to defend himself. So, as not only does he deal with that, he has to teach Claire how to cook and how to be okay without him, because his time is coming, and Claire and Alba are getting older, and it's about that time. So when he continues to just live with them, he starts to realize that she'll be okay without him, but she won't, because she's grown up with him, and he's been in her life for so long. She doesn't necessarily know how to be without him. And they have a conversation where they're talking about, what did you do in the 2 years where I left you and we didn't see each other and we didn't speak? What did you do? And she talks about how she went through a major depression, how she stopped eating, she spent a lot of time sleeping, lying in bed, and being really upset and knowing that she wasn't okay. But then her parents told her that she wasn't going to be able to go to school and she wasn't going to be able to do what she wanted once the 2 years were over. So she pulled it together and she started eating again, and she was just getting better and kind of finding herself again within those 2 years when she finally ran into Henry. And that scares her, and that scares both of them, to be honest, because if he dies and if he leaves her, who is she going to be for Alba? Is she going to be able to take care of herself and to take care of Alba? What does it mean for her if he leaves her? So, Henry dies December 31st of 2006 when Claire is 35 and Henry is 43. So, Henry decides that they're going to have a New Year's Eve party, and all of their friends and family are there, and he is saying his goodbyes. So when Claire finds out, she goes to him and she asks him what's wrong, and he lets her know that it's tonight and it's going to happen and they're not going to be able to be together anymore. And she cries and she's upset and she says there's not enough time, and still, he still has to go. He still time travels and he is shot and killed. He comes back not too long after and she gets to hold him while he goes. He only made it to 43, and luckily he got to die with his wife and his daughter with him and all of his friends and family, and he got to say his goodbyes. Wow, I'm actually crying. It's really sad, but they got to have a small piece of forever that Claire gets to hold on to now. She has Alba, and we get to see if she's going to be okay or not. After Henry passes, she finds a letter. And he wrote to her that one day that they're going to meet again when she is older. And she's going to be like an old woman with gray hair. And she gets to live a long, healthy life. And that one day they're going to meet again. And they do. And I think the year was 2050 something, I think. Thursday, July 24th, 2053. Henry is 43, Claire is 82. And that was the first time that Claire was ever older than him as well. Claire, this morning everything is clean. The storm has left the branches strewn around the yard, which I presently go out and pick up. All of the bench's sands have been redistributed and laid down, and the fresh, even blanket pocketed in the impression of rain. The daylilies bend and glisten in the white 7 a.m. light. I sit in the dining room with a cup of tea, looking at the water, listening, waiting. Today is not much different than all the other days. I get up at dawn, put on slacks and a sweater, brush my hair, make toast and tea, and sit down looking at the lake, wondering if he will come today. Not much different from many other times he is gone, and I have waited, except that this time I have instructions. This time I know Henry will come eventually. Sometimes I wonder if this readiness, this expectation, prevents the miracle from happening. But I have no choice. He is coming and I am here. I'm so sad. This book hurts my chest. I can't even imagine losing someone like that. And to love someone so much. And she spent her entire life waiting for Henry. And when he's there, she's at her best and she's so happy and she's so present. And then when he's gone, she is waiting and she's just trying to make do without him. And that's what it tends to be. You wait for someone to come back to you. And then one day you know that they're not coming back for a very long time. Whew. Shakes me to my core. Oh my God. And then, in a few sentences for me, wow, I'm really out here like sobbing. For me, I grew up with these characters as well because I watched the movie so obsessively when it first came out. And I was obsessed with it, and then it left me for years. And then I just randomly felt the urge to watch it again. I want to watch The Time Traveler's Wife. So I bought the movie, and then I bought the book, and it just killed me. It killed me. to love someone so much, and then to get to know these characters, and you get to learn about Henry and how he has to deal with his father who's been drinking, and all of his friends, and the things that he goes through, taking all of this medication to make himself stay. Like, he almost missed his own wedding because of time traveling and because of this disorder. And to think about it like this, we always think time travel would be such a cool thing, but what if it wasn't a cool thing? And what if it was like a disorder? And what if it's something that hurts you and doesn't do well for you? And I love Henry de Tamble. Like, his character grows so much. Like, both of these characters, you really get to see Claire grow from like an 8-year-old's head and an 8-year-old's perspective to a grown woman, and to someone who is not a child, to wanting a child, to being a mom, and then to losing her husband. It's so crazy. Hi guys, so I'm back, and it's later in the day. I just realized that my camera cut off the last like 5 minutes of what I was talking about. So I'm not going to keep you guys for much longer. I just wanted to let you guys know, so I'm kind of reamping my channel, and I'm going to be doing a lot more things with it. I've been really lacking on like content and on videos, and if you've been here for the past 2 years that I've had this channel, I used to post really frequently. So not only did I kind of change the last name of my channel, so my channel is my name, Cher Nick, and my full name is Sheridan Nicole. So I kind of figured I would just drop Nick and just do Cher Tamble, and shout out to Henry de Tamble, who we're talking about in this video. And I realized I missed so many things when I was filming it. Like, we got to see Henry not only interact with other people, but we saw Henry interact with his younger self. Because Henry, like older Henry and young Henry, interacted a lot, and older Henry was there to follow young Henry and to teach him about time travel and how to pick locks, and he got to teach himself all of these things because in the end he is one person. So he got to be there for his like first experience time traveling when they went to the museum on his birthday, and he got to be there for him when his mom died, and he got to be there for himself when he was at that weird age where you want to experiment and you want to masturbate and all that crazy stuff. So like, Henry got to be there for himself, and we get to see him interact with himself, and it's so cool and so vivid. Like, that's the thing about this whole story. It's so vivid and beautiful. And like, I was literally watching my own video and I started crying again, and I was like, they love each other so much, and I feel like I can't even explain it as well as I should, because they love each other so dearly, and there are so many parts of this book that I didn't even get to talk about. So if you have a favorite part of this book, or even a favorite part about this movie, please leave a comment below and let's talk about it. Like, literally, I'll have a whole conversation with you. I'll do a whole nother video about it if need be. I love this franchise, and I love the movie, and I love the book, and it like hurts my heart, and I love it so much, and it makes my chest hurt, and it's amazing, and I'm just rambling now. But basically, all I wanted to say is that I'm reamping this channel. I'll be doing a Twilight video next about like the Twilight series and the Twilight movies, so that'll be really fun. And I hope you guys enjoy this adventure with me until Shadowhunters comes back. So I'll be doing, I'm not gonna like become a booktuber or anything, so there will be other types of videos as well, but that's like the majority of what I have going on right now. I want to talk about Twilight, I want to talk about Time Traveler's Wife, and maybe I'll even do like a makeup video and you guys can like meet my sister and stuff like that, and I'll probably introduce you to my girlfriend eventually. Like, there's a lot of stuff going on, and there's a lot of stuff that I want to do, so I really hope you guys have this adventure with me. So like, comment, subscribe if you want to. It's all fun and games here, and I will see you next time, okay? Love ya, see ya, bye!